Hello, welcome back. Today we have a great show. We have two super people. We have Pete Checon from 619 Muscle, awesome IFBB Pro Bodybuilder, elite trainer, and Emily Chang, U.S. Navy veteran, top athlete, and also a trainer. So stay tuned. Great information. Educate, motivate, raise awareness right here. Here we are. We have a stacked house today. You have five of us today. Linda Stevens, Christian Palmer, and joined by awesome Emily Chang and Pete Checon. And a big shout out to 619 Muscle. Pete, known you for a long time. You're such a your passion and your knowledge. You train the best of the best, and you train them to be the best. And general population, elite athlete, whatever it might be, but you truly make a difference in your clients and just people in general. So thank you for joining us today, both.
Thank you for having us, Rob. Excited to meet you guys.
Emily, I'm going to go to you first. We're going to talk about 619 Muscle, and Pete, you've been doing that for quite a while, of course, the bodybuilding world and industry. But I know that you work with Emily. Emily, you have so many exciting things happening right now, one of which is the Muscle and Fitness Hers Miss Health and Fitness, which you people out there, if you have to dial in and check Emily out on @FitMWellness Instagram, right, Emily?
Yes, sir. That's it.
All right. So U.S. Navy veteran. You have a master's degree, right? A master's degree in performance psychology, is it?
Mm-hmm. I'm actually on my way to finishing it this year, so I'm about 75% done with it.
And of course, a competitor. So, right now you have this contest coming up, but what led you into the whole world? I mean, you're really dialed into the competitor end of it, training end. She has great content, by the way, and also coming to Muscle and Fitness Plus. So look out for FitMWellness. But what was a turning point where you decided to go head on into the bodybuilding world?
I've been an athlete all of my life. So starting from probably when I was like 8-9 years old, I played competitive soccer, Division I soccer, varsity lacrosse, all 4 years of high school. And then when I graduated high school, I decided to go the military route in order to pay for my college tuition and pursue my career in medicine. But I actually found my passion for bodybuilding while I was in the military. I found it fascinating. I found it more honestly beneficial as preventative medicine and preventative care for humans of all ages in terms of, longevity, immunity, everything. So I pursued my personal training career as soon as I got out of the military. I finished my bachelor's in biology, got my personal training certification, got my nutrition coach certification. I just finished corrective exercise and behavior fitness coaching, and decided to go full force into educating and sharing my passion for fitness with others.
And you have great content, as I said, you have great content out there. Look forward to having you on Muscle Fitness Plus, but you're also a great contributor to muscleandfitness.com. So appreciate you and your great articles and great content. But how long ago did you start training with Pete?
Gosh, I've known Pete for about 5 years now, but we've been training actually intensely together, like day by day, probably the last 2 years.
So Pete, take me through a typical week of Emily, training with Emily, like from wake up until how many sessions, how long, and what's each day consist of? So all you bodybuilding people out there, listen up now.
I mean, it's interesting. So we have on a very strict nutritional program, whether it's in a growing phase or in a cutting phase. She's not going to be competing this year because we want to focus on putting a little bit more size on her lower body in the category of wellness. When I first met Em, she was a soccer player turned bodybuilder or bikini athlete. And they were always struggling to get her legs down because in bikini, you have to have a more elongated symmetry. The silhouette has to be a lot more streamlined. And so as a soccer player, she had a heavy quads and a really strong, very impressive lower body, more like gymnastics type appearance. At that time, was like 2018-ish. She ended up turning pro in the OCB, which in bikini, which is interesting, but wellness had just come on the scene. And when I took a look at her physique, I said, even just in pictures, I was like, wow, from the back, she looked like a wellness athlete, or what the category was evolving into. And I got really excited because this was a new category for bodybuilding for females. Bikini is, it's a challenge for sure for the bikini competitors. Very respectfully, they work very hard. But for me as a bodybuilder and a bodybuilding coach, it's all about hypertrophy. Bikini is a lot more about careful shaping, trimming, toning, and having an overall healthy, fit, tight look, but a lot more elongated. Bodybuilding is about building mass. And that's where I got really excited when I saw the category come up, wellness, because the bodybuilding component of the general lifestyle, it focuses on muscle building. And when I saw her earlier pictures, I said, you know what, in the NPC, we're going to have to really chisel those quads down if we want to move up the ranks in competitive bikini, because that's just the way the category is. But in the category of wellness, which had just come out at that time, she was a perfect fit. So rather than cardio, and hunger to strip those legs down, we were able to shift the training and start squatting, start doing heavy RDLs and hip thrusts, and having a really good time essentially building muscle, which is bodybuilding. And that's my passion. I love muscle and I love building muscle.
So you're training 6 days a week?
Yep, she'll train Monday, upper body, Tuesday, upper body. We generally will break it down into focusing on specifically shoulders, and then Tuesdays typically back. We'll do that twice a week. And then we have 2 or 3 heavy lower body sessions. One is more glute specific, posterior chain specific. That's typically Wednesday. Depending on how our body's been progressing, because we've been working together for a while, Friday will sometimes become another total lower body or a quad or glute specific. And then Sunday is typically the composite lower body. That's our heavy day. Both of us, our schedule works, so we don't have a lot of work to do on Sunday. So that we just take the time and really lay it on the line. I mean, we do heavy everything. Sundays are heavy.
6 days, and what's the duration of the workout?
Sundays a little longer. It's about an hour and a half, but the rest of the workouts are fairly short, 45 minutes to stimulate volume, complete development, and tightness and tone of the upper body without tremendous amount of imbalanced hypertrophy, because actually the wellness category is really focused on glutes, hamstrings, quads, the lower body development, as it's kind of that offset for that genetic package. So we focus 2 or 3 days a week on specifically lower body. The lower body, like I said, the heavy days for her is on Sunday, and then we do specifically either a quad focus day on Wednesday or Friday, depending on where her fatigue is at and how her body's recovering and responding. So right now we're only doing 2 lower body days a week. Monday shoulders, Tuesday back, because right now she's also in a recomposition phase. We're not trying to aggressively grow her. She's got a good amount of cardio. She's got some photo shoots scheduled and some marketing stuff scheduled in the next several weeks. So we want to keep her body composition controlled, but still allow her to have enough nutrition to grow. So her diet is very strict and her cardio is higher than it normally would be. But we're doing it on stairs, and we're watching very carefully her weight and her body composition so that she's not inhibiting growth. We're not allowing her body to put on a tremendous amount of body fat. Some athletes and old school bodybuilders have a bulking phase. We don't do that anymore. We focus really on recomp or hypertrophy phase, but there's really in where we're at, where she's at, and high level athletes, like you guys know, there's no off season. So every phase is a growing phase. Some of the phases control body fat a little less aggressively, a little more aggressively. Right now she's in a cutting phase, but it's not contest prep. So she's still working hard. She's doing about an hour of cardio a day, a little bit more now. We're getting close to
hour of cardio a day.
Next week. So this
hour of cardio.
Yep.
That's 6 days a week, or how many days a week?
No, just right now, 6 days. It's been the last 3 weeks. It's been 6 days. She's had actually a pretty.
Pete, why don't you share more of your background? Because it's not just training. You got a really good background in regards to education.
I'm a registered nurse by trade. I was in the military briefly when I was young, right out of high school. I studied all kinds of different things, trying to find where I fit. I found that the easiest way to make money at that time when I got out of school, out of the military, was to go to nursing school so I could get a job pretty quickly and make decent money and focus on my passion, which was bodybuilding. So when I was in the military, it was like I had no time for anything, and I didn't make a lot of money. When I went to college, I had no time for anything, didn't make a lot of money, but at least I had a direction. So I trained, but I didn't compete that much. After the age of 19, I did about a show a year, but I was working my way through nursing school, got out of nursing school, and I realized 40-hour work week is easy compared to school and work and everything else. So I really started focusing on my own bodybuilding and running my nursing career. But I never really felt fulfilled with nursing. Nursing, I found that besides the system, the healthcare system is pretty challenging when it comes to trying to have a path towards success, which is ultimately health promotion was my cup of tea compared to health treatment of disease. So I took my nursing experience and I parlayed that into supporting and building a foundation for health promotion through bodybuilding. I found that my patients in the hospital were never really passionate about being better. They were passionate about returning to zero. And for bodybuilding, we start at zero, or maybe we start with some level of disease and we work our way up into better and better level of wellness throughout the age span, the lifespan, no matter whether you're just starting or whether we're in your 40s, 50s and on. I found that bodybuilding is the most amazing lifestyle to live. You guys know for sure, you guys are all living it too, to not only preserve health, but to promote a better and better optimization of health. And this is where bodybuilding for me and for Emily too, is we started talking. When we first met, and I was asking her, what are you doing? Where are you going to school for? And she says, I'm going to med school. And we were actually at a bodybuilding show, and she's so happy to be at the show. She said, oh my God, I love this. This is the most amazing thing. I wish I could do it for a living. And I said, well, why don't you? And she said, well, I'm going to be a doctor, care of people. Why do you want to do that? She said, I want to help people.
Why do you want to do that? Come on, don't do that. Come with me and be a bodybuilder.
Let's go eat meat.
You're going to be a bodybuilder. Doctor bodybuilder.
It's really funny because, for all of us, you got to think when you get out of, med school, then you have an internship or you have a residency, that's 2 years. By the time you're making any money, you're 36, 40 years old, not to bash the profession. It's a very noble profession, but in its nobility, it's not something. Yes. Even more so now with liability and insurance struggles. What I told her was, I said, you're going to be 40 before you make any money. Then you can start bodybuilding, right? And she was like,
I know.
so, here and there, we just started talking about it. She's like, what should I do? What should I do? And so, I said, get certified, learn from people you're working with, learn from people around you, and get on stage. She was already competing.
Where did you get certified?
Oh, yeah.
NASM, right?
Yes.
Yeah. National Academy of Sports Medicine. So shout out to them. So, yep. So, and Pete, you have to check out Pete's channel, 619 Muscle, Muscle Fitness Plus. So talk a little bit about your business, 619 Muscle.
Well, 619 Muscle was founded in 2006 here in San Diego. We were blessed to be a part of TG, which was World Gym at the time. It's the biggest gym in San Diego. It was and still is, if I, maybe not square footage wise, but yeah, probably square footage wise. It's one of the most comprehensive places to train. So all of the great athletes gravitated towards that gym. I put my supplement shop in there. I was
that rivals or exceeds the Mecca Gold's Gym in Venice. Now, the way it is now.
We used to call it, friendly. We would call it the new Mecca. I haven't been to the Mecca in a while. I would say probably you get a very similar vibe to the way.
Very similar vibe.
Not to put it down, but
it's just an energy there, like unlike any other. Have you guys ever been to what was it before TG? What was it before TG?
World Gym, and before that was Gold's Gym. It was Gold's Gym, World Gym, and became TG.
Pacific Beach, right?
Yep.
Pacific Beach?
Yep.
No, I've been to Gold's Gym Venice, but not.
Oh yeah, it's like awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's truly, it's that old
2 hours
school.
south.
Yeah. I want Christian and Linda to dive in because I know we're all on the same page. Mm-hmm. You've been to the anti-aging conference several times. You work with doctors. Definitely assuming Emily's is getting the blood work and all that other good stuff getting done. But talk about the importance of the blood work and the peptides and all these different things that are out there now, as we just spoke about on our previous show.
Well, it's amazing because, back in the day, even as far as, 5 or 10 years ago, the athletes that were taking their body to extreme, no matter what your sport, but bodybuilding specifically, because we're talking about it, and it is a very individualistic and very taxing sport. We just talked about Emily's prep, for example, an hour of cardio a day, currently 6 days a week, very strict regimen in terms of her calories and her protein, carbs, and fats, and weight training 5 to 6 times a week with expected outcomes that we want, specifically focusing on recovery. It puts a tremendous strain on the body, on the hormone system, on the endocrine system, the immune system, cardiovascular system. Everything is taxed to the max because bodybuilding is all about optimizing. When you're able to see a physician and have a physician or a trained professional review your blood work to check for deficiencies, because they're there. Stress puts our body through different type of deficiencies. Regimented diet puts limitations on our nutritional and our recovery. A tough schedule, not just to mention the athletic component of someone like her life, but her workload, her school. She's going to school, she's got a job, she's training clients, people who have families, their children. We're all bombarded, as we know from the COVID fiasco, by different types of pathogens that could come in from the environment. All of these things put a tax on your performance, but not only your performance, your general baseline health. Since bodybuilding is all about fine tuning, taking, for example, I always like to use the analogy of a car. You take a Corolla, you make it a Camry. You take a Camry, you make it a Porsche. It's the same thing with your human body. When you first get to the gym and you haven't trained before, you want to strengthen, you want to increase mobility, you want all the benefits of bodybuilding, cosmetically, psychologically, as well as physically. But you can't do it if you don't know what's going on under the hood. So you lift up the hood, you make some tweaks. The experts that are with certain anti-aging communities and the wellness communities now more than ever are fine-tuned to be able to look at blood work and not only say, you're free of disease, don't worry about it. I mean, how many of us have been exposed to old school physicians who have said, you know what, it ain't broke, don't fix it. But that's a Corolla mentality. That's not a Porsche mentality. Bodybuilding, and now everyone in our lifestyle is seeking out optimization of life, optimization of health, quality of life. That comes from managing and maintaining the inside of your body and then optimizing. And that can be done with a variety of different interventions, guided by a medical professional or a physician, monitored by your personal trainer in terms of performance in the gym, rest periods, recovery. How are you feeling? How's your energy? How's your appetite? How's your sleep? How are you breathing? All of these different things. How are you relating with your spouse or your partner? I mean, all of that stuff, your mindset, it all comes from the foundation of what's inside. And that's where the amazing, what we were exposed to, Rob, you invited us out to the A4M convention, for example, with Dr. Bob Goldman, and all of the different platforms now that are available to scrutinize your blood work. That's the foundation of giving you a clinical picture of what's going on inside your body. And this is where we now, in this day and age, have the advantage of being able to balance that out nutritionally and pharmaceutically as well, with peptides, with bioidentical hormones in the right amounts to fine-tune your body so you can get high performance and prevent some of the side effects of pushing your body to a high level of performance.
Conventional doctors would not really get or prescribe things that you think that need to be addressed, identifying the immediate needs and deficiencies. So finding the doctor that would be on the same page as you, how would you go about doing it?
That's a great that's a great question. So luckily right now with our network of doctors and health professionals we know, we've got access to good doctors, right? Like Dr. Eric Fett and so on and so forth. That is a big struggle for a lot of people, especially nowadays, because the medicine is advancing faster than the number of doctors are receiving and educating themselves on being able to deliver those protocols. Some of them are still stuck in the old medical books. Oh, this causes cancer, that causes. It's like, no.
Exactly.
The medicine refutes that. So for the average person, I always say get a second, third, fourth, fifth opinion. If your doc will not help you with something, there's guaranteed somebody out there. You got to talk to people. I'm not saying go on Instagram and find the first person that looks like they got abs, but I think if you speak to enough people and you're very intentional about your questions, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I want somebody to help me optimize my body. Look at my blood work. Help me with anti-aging. Don't just say, oh, I want to lose a couple, you know?
Right.
If you ask the right questions, I think eventually you'll get exposed to the right people.
So Pete, for when you look at the blood work, you know, you and Christian and Linda, of course, can't prescribe, but do you look at the blood work from a client?
I definitely do. And there's certain things, certain markers and certain indicators and values that are red flags to me. I mean, I'm a registered nurse, so I've looked at blood work for 13 years of my career in the hospital. Of course, we cannot prescribe, but what I can do is I can look and I can see normals versus abnormals, and I can apply those to the clinical picture. If I come in to a client who maybe has some trouble losing weight, and he or she has been banging her head against the wall for 6 months, comes to me, doesn't understand why. We run the blood work. We look at maybe the thyroid function is down, maybe TSH is up, which is a pituitary indicator. So then I can make some recommendations, and I usually jot them down on a piece of paper. And I just say, you know what, talk to your healthcare professional. These are things that we see that might need to be addressed. You know, if the thyroid is low, we might want to have that brought up by the doctor to a level where the thyroid's functioning properly, because that controls metabolism, energy, anti-fatigue, and it also controls body composition. We might look at them from a nutritional perspective, because there's a variety of supplements and lifestyle habits that impact metabolism and thyroid function. If you have somebody that comes in and is very ectomorphic or has a very slow metabolism, or maybe someone that's not high in muscle mass, energy, or maybe somewhat depressed, in the 40s, 50s, an older aging, or how do you say apply
Aging.
the youthful years, maybe
Midlife.
we're not there yet, Bob, but you know, you may look at their hormones and testosterone levels. You know, it's really interesting too, because, you know, in working closely with females, especially like Emily, for example, where the monthly cycle plays a tremendous role, more than I ever thought and realized, on not only sense of well-being, but emotional response to training, fatigue, and body composition, water balance through the course of the menstrual phase. So you want to take a look at that and have them talk to their healthcare provider. Women on birth control, that changes everything completely, the clinical picture. You know, so there's a lot of different things that the labs can show us as the front line of health, that we can then make some suggestions that we feel might be impactful to the doctor. The doctor ultimately has the authority, the training to make those decisions, but sometimes they need a little bit of an encouragement and a push in the right direction, because like we said, most doctors are always trained at worst to do no harm, is the Hippocratic Oath. And what ends up happening is they say, well, you look great, come back, your testosterone level's 300, you're not having any disease, but you can't get an erection, you have low body image, you know, or decreased sense of well-being. Yeah, and there's a big difference in that. We're able to now, Rob, you and I have talked about this at length. Health optimization is way different. That's why I left nursing than disease prevention or disease treatment. So even though, yes, at worst, do no harm, which is a great place to start your practice, at best, have someone living the highest quality, functional, satisfied, emotional, physical, and spiritual life they can through bodybuilding and everything that has to do with that. And that includes hormone replacement, and interpreting the lab work is a baseline for that.
How common, I'm going to ask all of you, is how common do you think that is now? One is for the trainer like yourselves, I know you all do, to actually, you can't prescribe, but you at least see markers, as Pete mentioned, you can identify. How common is it, do you think, for trainers like yourselves to be doing what we're talking about, actually looking at blood work, saying, let's get your blood work done, actually having a sort of an understanding so they see what's going on, then working with the doctor? From your perspective, can you look at the blood work and say, peptides or whatever types of IV infusion might be available? Would you know to say or mention it to the doctor that you say, this is what I saw? If they don't bring it up, like, we'll just start with Linda with peptides, for example. If you see something and a certain peptides, would you bring that up to the doctor?
Absolutely. And, dealing with the clientele that I deal with, women over 40, 50, I like to say midlife, Pete, so that's a safe place to go with women over 40, 50 and beyond.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Midlife. But
beyond midlife.
But what I run into is not so much with the peptides. When I look at blood work with my ladies, I see their hormone imbalances. Like, they sleep like crap. They have no libido. They can't build muscle. Everyone's grabbing their abdominal area now saying my stomach looks like a melted candle. That's one analogy I've heard.
Yeah.
But I understand that as a woman. I'm 55. I understand where they're coming from. So I can look at their blood work and see discrepancies. Like, wow, your testosterone's really low. I had a woman who said to me, my practitioner told me I don't need to worry about my testosterone. It's not just go, you're fine. And she's like, I love my husband, but I just don't want to have sex with him and it's painful. So I said, we need to fix that. That's not, you're not living your best life. That's unacceptable. So I agree with what Christian said. I think we're lucky through A4M that we found a lot of doctors that are they're all open to this type of lifestyle now, like with peptides and hormone bioidenticals. And I've started to build, like Christian, a nice consortium of healthcare practitioners that are open to these other types of way to treat people. So I can say, here, call this doctor, go see this person, go see that person.
They're on the same
because
line
they're
with
on
you.
the same page. They understand bioidenticals. This person does that, so go speak to them because you're going to get all the right information, and they'll look at your blood work and figure out what protocols you need. And I think it's really important because there are many, as you said, doctors are amazing and we need them, but so many of them will say to my clients, don't even talk about bioidenticals. That causes cancer. Or this does that, or that does this. You don't need that. You're fine. But that's unacceptable to me.
I think that, okay, so there's a huge opportunity for the medical industry and the health and wellness industry, like nutritionists, so on and so forth, to bridge the gap of communication. So something I've come across a lot with my clients, and I deal with men over 40, and for one, I mean, men don't like talking about their problems, right? I'm fine. We're taught to suffer in silence. So it's much easier to be a guy, to talk to other guys, tell them a little bit about yourself, and then they're like, oh yeah, bro, I've been struggling with this. The last thing they're going to tell you about is their erectile dysfunction, right? And if you build a good enough relationship, they'll start to tell you those things, because those are the things you need to address. When a guy says, I haven't had sex in a year not because I don't want to, I can't.
That's a problem.
I have
That's a problem.
So it's like, well, okay, let's have you get a blood test. When was the last one? Like 5 or 6 years ago. Well, shit. Excuse me.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
We're good.
So then you've got a lot of, so in the age of social media, now you've got a lot of people who touting themselves as professionals.
Yeah, that's a big problem.
Right? And the fact that there's access to black market, let's say peptides, you have people who are like, oh, just take this. I know a guy who, or, I do this myself. You don't have to go through the doctors.
Right.
Right? So I encourage anyone listening who is struggling and looking for help, find someone who's actually
Optimize
trusted.
your life.
Right.
Yeah. Optimize your life.
Right. Don't buy something that you see off Instagram where somebody pulls something from behind the counter with a label they made themselves in their basement. Oh yeah, just take this, you'll be fine. Yeah. I've had clients who have done that, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Right. But I'll also say that I think it's extremely important for us as medical professionals, as health and wellness professionals, to take the initiative to learn as much as we can, even if you don't intend on using it.
Right.
Have the knowledge to say, this doesn't look right, or let me look at your blood work. I think this is happening. Here's somebody you can go to. Maybe, because at the very least, you point them in the right direction, right? And now, obviously, if you choose to go above and beyond, then you're able to help them to a greater degree.
Well, and that's something you said that I think is very important, Christian. I totally agree with you. And Emily and I talk about it all the time. Like you said earlier, too, you look on Instagram now, the information out there, the pool is limitless, right? But so much of it is misinformation. And you've got a good set of abs, it probably means you had a good coach. It doesn't necessarily mean you know what the hell you're doing in terms of referring to other people's stuff. And that's really the truth. And so I 100% agree with exactly what you're saying. I think it's really important. Do your due diligence. Find a coach or a guide that you trust. Why would you take a guide who has been to the mountain and back with another guide? Hire him when you should hire the guide himself. I think you need to make sure that the client has the responsibility to hire the professional that can then steer them in the right direction. Because exactly like you said, I've had clients that are using peptides now very successfully from pharmaceutical grade quality sources. But I've also had the same clients initially who said to me, I can get the same ones online for a third of the price. but they're research chemicals. They're not properly dosed. They're not designed for human consumption or human use. They're studied research chemicals for rats and mice. And when we talk about it, they don't get the results that they're spending their money on anyway. And who knows what harm can be coming to these chemicals that are not regulated, especially in the realm of peptides now, which we know they're out there everywhere on websites. But make sure you do your due diligence, not just for your guide, not just for your trainer, but then for maybe who they recommend because you trust them to oversee things from a medical perspective, because you're putting it in your body. And ultimately, you cross your fingers and just hope. Many of us have done that. But when it comes down to it, it's worth every penny if the results actually come. And they can, and they do, with the right information. I think that's the most important.
So Emily, you're a trainer obviously as well. So you're on the same page, and of course, working alongside Pete there. He has a great understanding, but I'm sure you do too. So do you prescribe the same protocols, looking at the blood work and those sorts of things?
No, I don't feel that I have the capabilities, the scope of practice under my certifications and just the knowledge. Like, I just haven't learned enough. I've read I am familiar with reading blood markers because I was a Navy corpsman and I did work in the ICU and the ER, but I don't know it to the extent of optimizing health. Yeah.
So I don't want to go off to nutrition because, you both have your backgrounds, you all have your backgrounds in nutrition, but how many out there, you don't just become a nutritionist. You don't just become. So here's the same thing, and appreciate you and respect you, totally, because how many trainers can say, let me take a look at your blood work, have no clue what they're looking at.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I was just going to say that I have a lot of respect for Emily saying that, because she's doing what a lot of people won't do.
Right.
And
exactly.
also a lot of general practitioners don't. Is they don't want to be seen as wrong, even though in my opinion it's, hey, it's okay if you don't know, just tell me where to go.
Right.
Like what she just said is,
I find it so amazing.
Respect for that.
Yeah, it's so challenging for people to say, hey, wait a minute, you know what? Let me have this person look at this.
Right.
Yeah.
What is the problem with people?
They don't want to be wrong.
Yeah, they don't want. Well, and then when they're going to be.
Correct.
When they're going to be. They don't want to be wrong, but when they're going to be.
Right.
So, now you have, which brings me to the point. Just as a nutritionist, I know with, they have different certifications, but back to everything else, due diligence, look into the certification, the qualification that you get. But how important would it be, a certification B, where you're not going to be able to prescribe, but say A4M, for example, offers trainers an opportunity to let's do a 4-hour certification. It's not too much time, but they get a basic understanding of the blood work. Because how many trainers, really, we're in the minority, I still think. I don't think there are many trainers out there dialed in to say, hey, when's the last time you got your blood work?
Right.
If we took a survey, 1 out of 100, how many trainers are going to say, oh, no, I absolutely, truthfully, to say, no, I want to see their blood work, and even if I don't know what it says or I can't read it, I'm going to give it to someone and said, the right person, the right type of doctor, that I would work with them. But how awesome would that be to have that certification to where people, as opposed to saying, this is that and this is what you need, where you have no effing clue what you're looking at or dealing with.
Right, and even if you do have a clue,
you're really not that person.
It'd still be I would do something like that myself, because it's only reinforcing the things that I know, and maybe I pick up some nuggets of things that maybe I wasn't aware of.
Hello, Dr. Bob Goldman.
I know.
Hello, Dr. Bob Goldman.
Everybody email Dr. Bob.
Oh, yeah. Get over it.
We took a vote. A4M is going to offer a new certification.
Yeah. At the end of the day, knowledge is never a weakness,
No,
right?
that's for
it's
sure.
like, with the amount of knowledge that Pete has, if I were to learn about nursing, not necessarily go through a program, but even if I didn't intend on using anything I learned, just knowing more allows me to better recommend people to another professional, or at least have an understanding. We can have better conversations with clients.
Well, that's why you guys are the difference makers, and that's why, Pete, when you went out to the A4, you don't have to go to A4M. You spent the whole weekend out there just going to seminars, going to classes, as you guys are doing.
It's excellent.
You're going down there to learn, and then you look at a client, or you look at a trainer and a client who's not on top of things, and you look at the people that are on top of things, you're going to see that result happen. Well, why does that person look so much better and has so much more improvement in their strength and everything that they're doing? Because you're left behind in the dust. You can't be a pretender.
One of the things I love about going to A4M, every time I sit in a lecture and I listen to one of the A4M doctors talking about whether it's hormone balance or it's blood work or it's inflammation, or when we listen to Dr. Brian about nitric oxide, it's like you always learn something, but it always reinforces my knowledge too. Like I like to sit there and go, wow, I know that. And this is a very renowned doctor talking about that. So it's pretty cool to think, okay, good. I'm on the right page.
I'm glad you brought that up. So, again, applies to all. Emily, of course, you, if you're familiar with it, nitric oxide. So, Pete, your comments on nitric oxide, and one, define it so people know what it is, and then two, do you implement it or do you recommend it?
Nitric oxide, really, it comes from arginine. It's a basically a chemical communicator in the body that relaxes the smooth muscle of the circulatory system. So it's a vasodilating compound. I tell you what, it's fantastic for a lot of different reasons. It's great for bodybuilders. It's been sold for years just as NO3 or NO2, nitric oxide. Really, it's an arginine derivative. And what it allows the body to do is to deliver more blood to the functioning muscle, or in the case of cardiovascular health, it vasodilates the coronary arteries to some degree that allows greater blood flow, greater tissue perfusion. So it's very healthy for everyone to be taking some form of either arginine directly or nitric oxide supplementation. Pre-workout, it allows for greater oxygenation for improved performance, better pump, which, feeling the blood flowing into the muscles to a greater degree improves mind-muscle connection, improves performance. And also, from an intimate standpoint, especially for guys over 40, improves blood flow to the sexual organs, even for females as well. So it enhances sexual experience. Very, very important for us as we go through the aging process, and our circulatory system calcifies and has either stiffening of the blood vessels or plaques that form and inhibit blood flow, especially to the periphery, to the fine vasculature of the fingers and the toes, the eyes, and the sexual organs. Nitric oxide is a very safe and very healthy part of your supplement program. Arginine is something that is in all of the different amino acid supplements out there. It comes in protein. It's something that I think is worth supplementing pre-workout, and then maybe even once daily, depending on your.
Once daily?
Well, it really depends. I think arginine 5 to 10. I've used 10 grams pre and post workout to help with performance and recovery. And I love arginine. I love the blood flow feeling that you get from it. I'll use arginine pre, arginine post. There's other vasodilators out there, but arginine is the primary nitric oxide, unless there's something new in science I haven't read or seen at any of the seminars yet. Generally, arginine will be the precursor that allows the body to make nitric oxide, and that's what's going to enhance blood flow. Whether you take it 5 to 10 grams pre, post, and then at bedtime, it's going to improve your overall health as a baseline.
Incredible. Emily, are you taking nitric oxide?
Currently,
Arginine. It's in your BCAAs.
oh, it is. Yes.
She does. But and then interesting enough too, arginine has also been shown to help women in midlife years with hot flashes and night sweats, because it does increase the blood flow. So,
Chris, what about you?
Well, I mean,
Good to know.
nitric oxide production is one of the most important parts of, if you want to talk about longevity and anti-aging, right? Pete mentioned a ton of great things that nitric oxide does in the venules. It acts as a surfactant, so it prevents plaque from sticking to your cardiovasculature. So, I mean, it's one of the things that I think it's important enough that men need to get, well, one, get your cardiovascular system looked at, whether it's a CT angiogram or whatever you get done. And then two, make sure your body's actually producing nitric oxide. Because if it's not, it could be something as simple as supplementing with something to help you improve your oxygenation. Gary Brecka said it best: the presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. And I think as people get older, one, our tissues get stiffer. Two, our brains do. What do they call it? Hardening of the.
I understand.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's, I think that people don't understand how important it is. Even breathing. How well you breathe determines how well your body can be oxygenated. Lung capacity, the ability to actually move that oxygen through your venules it's really the essence of life.
All right, so we got to all across the board vote on nitric oxide. So we have a couple minutes left. So I do want to cover two things here. One, I want to go back to Emily. So with that training schedule, you have 1 hour of cardio a day. Then you have your strength training. So that's a heavy week. So, you know, in regards to injury prevention, your recovery, what does your recovery look like?
I do my own like foam rolling, stretching at least 15 minutes right after I train. I'll try to do it at least 10 to 15 minutes before I train. Sometimes I might not get to it. And then I see a massage therapist for body work at least once a week if I can, sometimes every 2 weeks.
What about sleep? How much sleep do you average?
I would say I average about 7 to 8 hours.
Oh, that's a good night.
Yeah,
That's a good night's sleep. Do you sleep straight through?
I try to.
That's the goal, right?
For the most part, yes. I'm pretty tired. Yeah, like with my heavy training schedule and heavy workload right now, especially with the contest on top of it, and pushing more content for that, I've been pretty tired as soon as my head hits the pillow, so I'm out.
Yeah, on content now, I'm expecting the Muscle and Fitness Plus channel to be up soon.
Yes. No pressure.
So Pete,
No pressure.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, no, I'm always texting him and bugging him. So Pete, in closing, 619 supplements. You have awesome supplements. You have awesome products. You have a wealth of knowledge. So again, shout out to you. Thank you so much, brother. You've always been there. 619 Muscle through and through. Give the Instagram and also anywhere they could purchase your product and services for 619 Muscle.
Yep, you can just DM me at Pete619 Muscle or at 619 Muscle. Instagram, it's the easiest way to do it. And, you know, we'll get back to you right away. We're always online, answering through our DMs. Me and my staff, I've got a tremendous team that works behind me now. We got 2 shops out here in San Diego.
Can't wait to get to see you too. I'm going to come out there.
It's a new fitness. Yes, I can't wait to see you, Rob. It's going to be awesome. We'll get some hardcore training in there. Do some cardio with Emily. I guess I'm doing my cardio too.
I'm already sleeping.
Hey, Pete, where are you from? Do I detect a Northeast accent?
Yes, you do. Your ears are strong. Yeah, I'm from Boston originally. Lemon Street.
All right, I grew up in Natick.
Where are you from?
Natick, Mass.
Oh wow!
So as soon as you started talking, I'm like, I know he's from the Northeast.
Great things come to the Northeast.
Yeah, I try to hide it.
I don't think we can ever lose it.
Only us that are in the club, we pick it up. You're good. You're good.
So Emily, reminder to all your listeners out there, Emily's got her big vote coming up. Make sure you check her out at FitM Wellness on Instagram. Correct, Emily?
Yes.
FitM_.
FitM_wellness.
FitM_wellness on Instagram. Make sure you check her out. Make sure you vote for her. And also make sure from a training's perspective, she's got a great background, great history. And thank you for your service, by the way.
Yes,
U.S.
thank you
Navy
very much.
veteran. And then in closing, Linda and Christian, as always, can't thank you guys enough. And just give your shout out usually for your Instagrams.
My Instagram is at Linda Stevens Fit, STEPHENS.
Instagram, Christian F. Palmer, and my website is relentlessfitnessandnutrition.com.
Make sure at Rob Fletcher Podcast, and make sure you check out Muscle and Fitness, because everyone that was on the show today, they are going to have by tomorrow a channel. So we have Relentless Fitness and Nutrition on Muscle Fitness Plus. Yes. We have Midlife Mastery on Muscle Fitness Plus. We have 619 Muscle on Muscle and Fitness Plus, and we have tomorrow
soon to be Emily
Fit with Emily Wellness on Muscle and Fitness Plus. So thank you very much, Pete and Emily. I will talk to you guys very soon. Until next time, make sure you tune in, educate, motivate, raise awareness. Muscle Fitness Plus, health, fitness, anti-aging. Optimize your health and performance on the field, in the ring, and in the game of life.